Hello. Today for reading class, we're in the informational text packet again. We're going to look at question 1, how do readers know what to believe? Question 4, what is informational text really about? Question 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? And question 6, how does what readers read influence how they should read it? Now, as we look at these learning targets, we're going to be focusing on another close reading. This time we're looking at the excerpt from Ship of Fools. Yesterday we looked at the online news article. Today we're looking at Ship of Fools. This is an editorial excerpt, which has a different purpose. We'll be talking about that as we get through our close reading. For this, remember we focus in the first phase of reading on what the text says. As we look at what the text says, we're going to be focusing on some specific learning targets that we covered yesterday. We'll be looking again at learning target number 3 to determine 2 or more central ideas in the text, which means to decide 2 or more ideas that are discussed in the text that connect the whole piece together. We're also going to look at learning target number 4 to analyze how each central idea develops with claims over the course of the text. So as we determine what those big ideas are that connect the whole text together, we have to look at how those big ideas grow or change in this specific section that we're talking about in the text. And then lastly, we're going to look at learning target 5, creating an objective summary of the text. Because in that first phase of reading, it's all about what is the text about. Remember, as we make a summary, we are using only the facts. We're staying away from personal opinions because it's an objective summary of what's happening in that section. So we need to make sure that it's brief, includes the most important points, doesn't contain any personal opinions, and includes only the facts. That is the learning targets that connect to the first phase of the reading. Within this section from Ship of Fools, you're going to read over the section, focus on highlighting key sentences that help you understand what's happening in each paragraph. Margin note that as central idea, since we're using that language from the learning target packet for what that single controlling point is that ties the whole piece together. So margin note it central idea. After you figure out what the central ideas are and make those margin notes, discuss with your group your highlights, and then make sure that you provide your objective summary as part of phase 1. In phase 2 for the reading, we're going to go back into how the text says it. We're going to focus on a couple different things for how the text says it. First thing we're going to focus on is learning target number 6. Or excuse me, number 23. Learning target number 23 is a new one. So these notes you'll have to get into your notebook during interventions. 23 is to analyze the impact of a specific word choice on tone. We talked about tone with our literature packet. Now we're going to look at tone in informative writing. This target, broken down into regular words, means to look closely at the impact or effect specific words used by the author have on the feeling, the attitude, the tone of the text. Oftentimes you'll see this question asked as, what impact does the word choice in the sentence have on the tone? Remember, let's define what tone is. We said that tone is describing the writing. It's the author's attitude in the text. It can be positive, it could be negative, or it could be neutral. And remember, we don't want to say adjectives to describe the tone that are weak. Don't use weak adjectives. Let's use fancy adjectives. So if you know that the tone is a negative tone, don't just say mean as your adjective to describe his tone. Look up the word mean. Try to find a synonym for mean that would be a better, more appropriate, more advanced way of saying the tone of the piece. If you think the tone is positive, don't say friendly. Look up the word friendly. See if you can find a synonym for friendly that is fancier to describe what the sound coming off that page really is like. But word choice does impact how that author's attitude sounds coming off the page. And I want you to be able to put that into words today. The other thing we're going to do as we check for phase 2 is we're going to look at learning target number 8. We did this yesterday as well. It's more of a phase 2 than a phase 3 area. So phase 2, we're focusing on number 8 to determine the author's purpose. Why did they write the text? Remember we said that author's purpose in regular terms means to decide the author's reasons or intentions, their goal for writing the text. We can begin with something like to explain, to compare, to describe, to promote or urge, or to inform. So in phase 2 of reading today, I'm asking that you do 2 different things. You're going to first take some time to look at what the author's purpose is in writing the passage. As you reread the section, because remember each phase is a new reading, this time focus on how the text says it. I want you to highlight specific words you believe create a strong impact in the piece. That word choice doesn't influence what the purpose of the text is as well. For any words that you find that you think are strong, that create a specific sound of the author's attitude coming off the page, highlight each of those words with the margin note tone, and then answer each question. There's 2. Make sure you answer both before you hit submit. After looking at the author's word choice, what's the author's main purpose in writing the passage? Remember, make sure you begin that statement with the author's main purpose in writing this article is to either explain, compare, describe, promote, or inform. After you decide that and you get that answer filled in, do not press submit. Just answer question 2 again, or in the same section. What's the impact of those words you highlighted? How do they affect the attitude that you hear coming off the page of the editorial? Is that tone, is that attitude positive, negative, or neutral? And then remember, make sure you find a fancy adjective, not just mean or happy or neutral. Pick a word that you think would be a strong word choice to describe accurately that attitude coming off the page of the text. And that's what we're going to be doing in our phase 2 of reading today. And then in phase 3, we are looking at the why the text matters. For this one, we are going to be looking at learning target number 6. In learning target number 6, that is to analyze the interactions between individuals, events, and ideas of the text. This means to look closely at the relationship and connections between individuals, events, and ideas in the text, such as answering the question, how did an individual influence society as stated in the text? Or how did the event influence a specific person? For this area, we're focusing on an idea. So for that final reading of the text, I want you to reread the entire excerpt, focusing on why the text matters. Highlight where the author connects the event from Abby's experience to our lives and the American culture. Please margin note that the word culture. After you do that, I want you to answer the question. Based on the information from the excerpt, how does the author believe the culture influenced Abby's decision to sail around the world? And then you're going to explain your answer there. There are other key learning targets we are going to get into with this, such as citing text evidence, which remember we say that's quote. So for all of them, if you can provide a quotation from the passage to support your answer, do it. Remember, when we quote, that means we are putting someone else's words into our own words. It doesn't mean it's dialogue, although it could be. We're also going to be making claims in the form of inferences, conclusions, and generalizations. Make sure as we develop our answer choices, we're aware that these are our claims. These are the opinions that we are making that answer the question with proof or support from the text. So please go ahead and begin participating in this close read of Ship of Fools.